What's up, man? It's Monday, so they say it's fun day. You and I know it means it's back to work, in
Back
a
to the
real
grind.
way, back to the
Huh.
grind, brother. So, how was your weekend, man?
Man, it was good. It was good. It was restful, man. I slept I don't know how many hours I slept, but I got everything I've ever missed. I got back this weekend, so I'm good.
Hey, let me get that.
Right. Marcus is on the road, traveling, doing his thing, making his moves. He'll be back with us tomorrow. So it's just me and Mundell right now. Sorry, folks. I know all y'all be living to see this man in his dapper done. You know, he's always gonna be wearing something fly, but he'll be back to join us tomorrow, man. What you got on your radar, Mundell?
Man, just out here, literally working ridiculously, trying to one convince these Democrats that they're going to cost us an election if they continue down these traditional paths in Georgia. Actually, I'm sorry, cost us three important elections. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, man, just trying to finish this documentary on black men and what it means to be black in America. It started out as just a political document, but it looks like it's going to be expanded to what it means to be a black man in America in general.
Oh
So,
wow, wow, wow! Congratulations on that, man. When is
yeah,
that? When is that? What's your timeline for that?
um, it's going to be a while because what we thought were we were just going to cover the 2020 elections, uh, and just cover the work that we were doing around 2020 elections, but I think we're going to expand it to this off-year election as well to see if Democrats revert back to age-old tactics of courting conservative-leaning voters.
The same thing. The reason they lost, and the reason they lost in 2016, the reason that they almost lost in 2020, playing that same tire book. If it wasn't for young organizers who understood and who understand, right, what people are looking for, Democrats most certainly would have lost this election. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. We got a couple questions where Marcus at. Marcus is on the road traveling, taking care of business. Like as much as we love doing this and as committed as we are, right, Mondell? Like we committed to this joint. Like every single morning, we still have to break free and take care of our own business from time to time.
Indeed, bro. I mean, we've done what, I don't know, since March we've been doing this show regularly. So I think a day into a day off here, a day off is absolutely necessary.
Shan Williams said the conversation that we had on Friday got her blocked on Facebook. Hey, fellas, it got you blocked
How?
on, like, how? Like, not from us, right?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what? Tell us, say more, Shan, because that's
Yeah,
gonna be
tell
our
us more.
that's
Tell
gonna
us
be our
more.
Friday thing.
Yeah, Friday was wild, but it was meaningful, man. I think it was I think anytime, like, people are afraid to grow. I think really that's what it is. People are afraid to grow because growth is painful. And if they can avoid that pain, they would rather avoid the pain of growth than actually learn and change your minds. Or so anyway, that's my take. What's your take on it?
I think you're absolutely right, man. I think first of all, I didn't think people. First of all, our show probably thought they were gonna wake up and get the normal political conversation, but politics is also conversations around what's socially acceptable or what the norms are, and we were having a conversation that folk don't normally have, especially not three black cisgender men. So I think it's an important conversation, and also it just shows folk that we are complete men out here, and by
Mm-hmm.
complete I mean we have all of the abilities and also questions to know what we don't know and also talk about them in a way that is not derogatory to anyone, and also grow from where we fall short.
Gotcha. No facts. I'm looking at Shan's response. She caught me off guard with this. She said Facebook said the comment. She made a comment on our chat the other day saying, "quote unquote," females are grimy, and they said that Facebook said that that was against community standards. Wow.
Donald Trump's not against community standards, but that is lying
Right.
about elections, lying about COVID. You know what I mean? I am literally. We know that Facebook has a problem over policing black activists or black bodies in general. This is just another one of those examples of how the algorithm tend to hit harder
Mm-hmm.
for black folk. I think what
Mm-hmm.
they're really saying is black people with their own point of views are against their community standards.
Black folks, when you say something that they don't understand, when it's a little bit uncomfortable for them, they don't understand the language. they don't understand the language. They shut it down, man.
Yeah.
Just giving good mornings to everybody in the chat room. A lot of folks in here so far. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. So the president of the United States fired his Kraken. He released the Kraken, and then he fired the Kraken, Sidney Powell, who was the one of the attorneys, a part of his legal team trying to take over or overturn, rather, the results of the election. Sidney Powell has been fired from the Trump legal team. And the statement from Trump Pence campaign made it seem as though she was never affiliated with them. I mean, obviously, we know that's not true. We got video after video after video, tweet after tweet. But I'm just curious, like, what? It's wild that they finally have come to the point where they've gone too far, a bridge too far, even for Rudy Giuliani.
Well, I don't even know if it's a bridge too far for them. I think that this is something else probably that led to this, and because the fact that Rudy Giuliani still has a job and he should have been fired first, because dude, besides of the black chocolate running down the side of his face, I think like the lies that this guy tell as an attorney, I don't know how he still has a license. How he still actually, I don't even know if he is barred. Like, really, like, this guy's just playing officer or playing lawyer on TV. The shit, excuse my language, that he does and get away with, and it's still considered an attorney, is absolutely ridiculous, and it goes against the ethics code of the bar, of any bar, and it's just ridiculous to me that they allowed this. Not just the blatant lies capping for your client, or who is Donald Trump, but I mean, we know this guy's history of over policing folk, and the continuation of those lies, and how he defended that stop and frisk and everything like that, even in the face of folk telling you how wrong and terrible this policy was. You still, in 2019, 2018, 2020, at the beginning part of the year, defended those policies. So I'm not a fan, never been a fan of Rudy Giuliani. He was America's mayor, and that says all I need to hear, because that really is a hat nod to white America, if you ask me, because their definition of being American mayor is standing up, being strong against people of color during 9/11, when in actuality we know what's really real.
Luke Kang in the chat room said, "Fam, Rudy Giuliani was leaking ectoplasm at the press conference."
Ectoplasm. That's exactly what it was.
Like, dude, what's going on with him? Between him and what's your boy, Mitch McConnell, hands looking like flesh was trying to break free, like the demon was trying to break out of his skin, bro. It was exorcism happening. Bro, it was an exorcism happening in real time, and now you got this dude with ectoplasm leaking out of his forehead, bro. And now they say that Sidney Powell was a bridge too far for them. But you're right, the fact that Rudy Giuliani is still there, I mean, I'm just curious, like, what was it? The fact that she got she messed up and didn't realize Hugo Chavez was dead? Is that why she was embarrassed? I just don't understand, like, what she did at this point for Donald Trump to be like, oh yeah, no, we can't mess with her.
Yeah, I mean, she I don't know. She was carrying the water for the widespread voter fraud lie that 30 cases have been kicked out of court. So I mean, that should have been her job. You know what I'm saying? And for Rudy Giuliani, they'd be like, well, she's not a member of our legal team. And I'm like, how are you our member of the legal team? And like I said, so I am not sure. I am not sure. I think maybe it's got something to do with those two press conferences. Maybe she was in charge of handling those press conferences, and then the one they got,
not the one at the
between the dildo store and the.
Oh man, is she the reason they ended up there? Oh,
I mean, maybe she has something to do with that. So I could see Donald Trump taking that personal. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So the real deal is that one time he gave her a shot, and she got them between the dildo store and the crematorium. And then the second time they did the press conference, it was when she said something about them conspiring with Hugo Chavez. Interesting times, man.
Well, I mean, if people mad that she said something about somebody being dead, don't forget that her president, her client, right, our president, said that there were airplanes in World War One. I'm sorry, in the Revolutionary War.
In the Revolutionary War, and he said, and your boy said,
so let's be serious.
Frederick Douglass, like he said, Frederick Douglass does great work. I'm like, wow, bro.
Yeah.
So yeah, she should have felt right at home then.
I mean, she probably said something that was right, like, "Hey, look, we should probably give up these fraud cases because they keep getting thrown out of court and they're starting to look like frivolous lawsuits." I mean, man, it's so bad that in Wisconsin, Donald Trump, in Wisconsin, that Wisconsin is not for the do-over on elections. Like, you have to pay for it. You we'll do it, but you're gonna pay for it. Like, if you want to recount, you're gonna pay for it, right? So Donald Trump didn't. His campaign probably couldn't afford to do an entire statewide re-election. So what they did was they tried to challenge the election in places where more black voters vote. So they wanted to recount in Milwaukee and Madison.
Okay.
But they didn't want to do a regular recount. They didn't want to say, "Hey, recount these ballots." They wanted to throw out the ballots that were received before election day, because a high number of black people
Wow.
voted early. So he said, "Well, taking an absentee ballot and turning it in person is not the same as mailing it in," and that's where the fraud occurred. It's man, I'm
Wow.
telling you, yeah, oh yeah. It wasn't even at this point. It's not even. Don't recount them. They're figuring out new ways to discredit legal votes. So
Are you
it's ridiculous.
more or less surprised that these conservative justices and judges across the judiciary that are really like, get the hell out of here with this foolishness? Are you surprised by that, or are you like, well, yeah, they're just protecting their institutions?
Well, I think I'm not surprised. I definitely believe it's some self-preservation in there. These folk actually buy into the idea, even if they're conservative. I think for the most part, they buy into the idea that, this democracy is the best in the world and American exceptionalism is a real thing. So to allow Donald Trump this victory is to say that everything that they believe in is false, and they're not willing to go there for Donald Trump. And also, I believe most of them realize that Donald Trump is not a conservative. He's a crackpot. And I think folk know that, and I think now his sycophants, his followers don't know that, but I mean these people aren't those folk, right?
Right.
And he was obligated to appoint these conservative judges, but these are folk who were conservative in the Bush form or in the John McCain form, not in the Donald Trump form, because that's not conservative. That's what Donald Trump got going on now is a political cult. And it's a different form of PC, right? So I think we need to acknowledge that and call it what it is.
So Trump was appointing justices and judges throughout the judiciary that he thought were going to be loyal to him, but ultimately they were probably your rank and file. They may be, like theocrats that will gladly overthrow the federal government in the name of Jesus Christ. They're just not going to overthrow the government in the name of Donald Trump.
Right. I mean, their love for Jesus Christ is real, and Donald Trump ain't it. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
And I think
they'll use him though. They'll use him.
Absolutely. They'll take the appointment. We saw this with Mitt Romney going to the White House, but Mitt Romney was never a Donald Trump sycophant, right? Like, so I mean, some of them don't have spines like Ted Cruz, who allowed this man to say what he said about his wife and what he said about him. Right. And he even called Ted Cruz one victory in Iowa a fraud, in the primary in 2016, the Republican primary, and wanted to recount then. Donald Trump always wants to recount when and where he loses. But Ted Cruz tend to just forget all of that and just do and say silly stuff about Donald Trump or for Donald Trump. So I think most of the Republicans aren't like Ted Cruz. And if you talk to the people that went to law school with Ted Cruz, they'll tell you what kind of freak Ted Cruz was, and not in a good way. I'm talking about, they said the dude used to just walk down the halls of the dorm with a heavy robe on, singing classical music. Like, he had a very big sense of himself, even when it was not necessary or needed.
Oh, that's sociopathic, right? He
Exactly.
He used to walk down the hallways in robes, singing like opera songs, like giving himself an entrance.
Oh yeah, man. There were studies about this guy, like people who like were classmates and they were coming back from, like they gave him a ride back to college, and some of the weird conversations about how, like, his ego of himself, like how sure he was of himself. And they were just like looking at him like, I never said one thing to him after that car ride. Like, people, there's stories about, he's, man. So he's the type of person that you can say something about their wives in that manner or their spouse, and then they're okay with it because their proximity or power.
Shout out to Marcus is in the chat room. Marcus in the chat room. Everybody show him some love. He is traveling, taking care of business. So y'all give him some squirrels, some acorns up in the chat room. A couple people said they absolutely adore Mundell. Ben, it goes without saying, but they just need them some Marcus. All right. We don't care why you're here. As long as you're here, we appreciate you, you know. So anyway, we're going to bring in later on, probably in the second hour or the second half hour, depending on what time we can get her in here. We're going to bring Rebecca into the conversation just to add a third wheel to this bicycle. I guess that would make it a tricycle. Either way it goes, we love to bring her in on days that we can get her here. And Marcus on the road. What a better excuse than to bring her on to speak with us. What else you watching over the weekend, though, man? It's been I feel like I missed a lot.
Man, these Biden nominations are coming in, and you know, they're not Republican. Actually, did you see? I mean, basically, if you pay attention to what happened, I mean, Biden was like trying to just skirt what Donald Trump had going on with blocking the transition, not supporting it by talking to Republicans and building a gateway where you know we still have a successful transition of government like we've had for how many ever years we've been playing democracy in this country. And it basically looked like, for the most part, these Republicans are lock in step with Donald Trump. So I think we're going to see a hostility that exists with this new administration that's not even necessary on the part of these Republicans. And Mitch McConnell seems to be set to continue with his idea of what a Democratic president that's controlled by the Senate should be. It should be a one-term president, right? And I think the problem with that, though, is the Senate's not Mitch McConnell's right now. You know what I mean? So what they forget, though, is, I mean, we have the opportunity next year to really tie this up and make it a 50-50 thing, which means Kamala will be the voice of reason in the Senate again. And that's going to make Mitch McConnell a byproduct of the Senate, and not the voice of the Senate.
Right. And that's so that brings us back full circle to the races here in Georgia, right? We've been following them, pushing people to show support to the organizations on the ground that have been doing the work, pushing people to make donations there versus the individual campaigns. The campaigns are going to get plenty of money. The campaigns are being flooded with money right now, but the people who actually did the work here in Georgia are the organizations that organized on the ground. So the races that are coming up, anything changed over the weekend from your perspective? I've seen a lot more attack ads from Republicans going after Ossoff and Warnock. I'm seeing those everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some ads that are problematic, and I think Marcus wanted to save that conversation for tomorrow, so he can be a part of it. But I think what has changed, Ben, is, I'm getting all types of like weird requests from folk, well-meaning folk, well-intentioned folk. We know how you get to hell. It's definitely well-intentioned avenue. You know what I'm saying? So we've gotten all types of like requests from folk. One, they want to give money and to help us do what they want us to do, which we reject wholeheartedly over here. And then also just people supporting ideas outside of the state, people outside of the state trying to tell me how Georgia was won in this election cycle. And it's just, it doesn't ring true to me because, well, one, I was here doing the work. And then also, it's this idea that what you read on TV, what you read on the news, either online or in a paper or whatever, or if you hear it on CNN or MSNBC, then it must be true. When in actuality, all you need to do is do a little diving. Ben, let me give you a great example. We know what traditional campaigns are. People have run the same campaigns. What you see candidates doing, what you see the party doing, what they've always done, and what they did this election cycle. To believe that all of a sudden what they've always done yielded all of these new voters is the definition of insanity, right?
Right.
To believe that, you must be insane, or you must be critical and say, okay, what's new, what changed, and how did this work? And I think when we think like that, then we will not be out here giving undue credit to folk who are not responsible, who ran only billboards, and then we call that engagement, or people who only ran a social media ad and never talk to voters about what was on that ad or engage voters at all. To say that is to say that the way normal campaigns are run are okay, right? We can't criticize white consultants for running ads and not talking to our voters, and then be okay with black consultants running ads and not talking to our voters. So I think people are afraid to tell that truth. And I think that's been hyped. It's been extremely hyped this weekend. And maybe it's because I have my people in the field, talking to voters, canvassing, and then just what people are saying, why they want to come into the state. Some guy from Philadelphia, I asked him to call me. I gave him my phone number because he was literally in my email lying to me and didn't even know it. I mean, he might have knew he was lying, but he didn't know I knew he was lying. He was like, yeah, I'm such and such, and I'm responsible for me and my volunteers are responsible for the only on-the-ground canvassing operation in Pennsylvania this year. And I'm like, except for my people were there.
Yeah.
Like we literally were canvassing. We literally were doing work in Philadelphia, and he just told that lie. And then he was like, oh yeah, we know how to canvass, and we're interested in coming to Georgia. We work with this, and this. And I'm like literally I said, call me so I could tell him, no, bring your ass to Georgia. One, COVID's on the spike. Two, we don't need nobody coming out here that's going to do what you already did. Try to change the narrative about Philadelphia and Pennsylvania and how you're responsible. And you don't even know you're minimizing the work that we did as an organization. So stay your ass at home and don't come down here. Plus, because they'll be the people that call the cops on black people in the hood that have guns on the corner, right? And we don't need that. We don't need that.
Right. Between there's so many reasons for them to not even come down here. Think about the fact that they'll do exactly like you said. They'll be uncomfortable and they'll end up calling the police on somebody. COVID-19 is spreading so far and so fast and so wildly. Like, it might be in everybody's best interest to just send your resources to an organization here and then volunteer from a distance. You can phone bank from anywhere. You can text bank from anywhere, and you can donate from anywhere. But getting in your vehicle and driving down here is probably not going to be the best use of your time. We don't need it.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're absolutely right, Ben. And I think just because of the cultural problems that you're going to create with an organization that's already got this we did an attitude, and you also minimizing, and I know we weren't the only, Ben, I promise we weren't the only other organization that was canvassing in Philadelphia. So for them to say that, it's a discount organization like Working Families Party, who we know had canvassers on the ground, right?
Right.
And I'm not about stealing people's work. And then there are other organizations, Bill Cobb had people on the ground. So like for them to say that, is problematic for me in so many ways. And then also it's like you're literally talking to me about the work that we did and discounting it. That goes back to the idea that black men are made invisible and how comfortable these people feel just saying that, right? All you got to do is, bro, if you really want to be effective, like Ben said, text somebody. If you got technical skills like on social media, ask to run somebody's social media for a day or two. If you have the ability, if you have volunteers that want to go canvas, great, keep them in the house and let them text. We need a ton of text messages sent throughout the state of Georgia, because what people aren't understanding is this is not a normal runoff in Georgia. Normally we have 3 weeks. We have 8 weeks now. We had 8 weeks. Right?
That's a full ass campaign.
It's a full campaign, and we get to do that. And I think people better be prepared to say, while this country is celebrating the 65% of people that turned out in this election cycle, that's a whole nother conversation. We're probably going to have like a low level presidential turnout, like 45-50% of the election may turn out to vote in this special election if it's done properly. And if we're not prepared, it's going to be a blowout. And guess what Republicans are going to take that to mean? Donald Trumpism is still alive and well, when in actuality, all it is saying is that the way the Democratic Party runs campaigns is tragic and disgusting and does not invite
all right, so let's unpack all that, and let's unpack it in reverse, right? So, because you said a lot there, and I think we need to dig into each of them a little bit. So, the fact that we can expect, we're not going to get the same turnout. We shouldn't expect, even though we may push for it, but don't count on getting that 65%, which was historic kind of turnout. You're saying expect somewhere more closely around 45% turnout.
I'm thinking 45-50% of turnout voters will turn out in this runoff, and that is massive amount of voters for a runoff. Right. Georgia normally gets 3 weeks. Man, we would be more than halfway through. Shit, this would be the year. I mean, this would be the week of the election. You know what I'm saying? We're 3 weeks away from the general election.
Oh, so wow.
We would be really normally in normal times. We would be doing a runoff right now.
Well, how did it end up that I think I've asked this before.
Changed. Yeah, the laws changed.
The laws changed.
Yep.
The laws changed. So now we have 8 weeks, which is a full campaign. And
let me unpack
the lower turnout. We can be. Well, go ahead. Yeah, 8 weeks full campaign.
So what Ben and I mean by full campaign, y'all, is if you know about anything about presidential campaigns, people really are just running ads, raising money before Labor Day. After Labor Day is when they go into full scale voter engagement. So this is what
Right.
Ben and I mean about full campaign. Sorry about that, Ben. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. I was saying, right. You're right. Like most people aren't really paying attention until after Labor Day.
That's what they say. Nobody ain't paying attention after Labor Day anyway. That's traditional campaigns. So if traditional campaigns yield normally about 60% of voters, 59% of voters, then we probably can consider that we're going to have low traditional campaign turnout in these 8 weeks. About especially since we know the amount of money that's going to come into Georgia, bro, is going to be that equivalent to what was spent in the general election anyway.
Wow, wow. So the all right. So I'm just piecing this. So if we have less time then to fool around with Democrats trying to appeal to moderate Republicans. Obviously, because we have less time, we have a full campaign, but we still are. The clock is on, right? We're on the clock. We're on the clock. So Democrats trying to figure out this strategy at this point. It's a little bit too late. They need to have understood this strategy. The question is are they going to actually listen to the people who implemented this strategy, like Stacey Abrams, right? She's not the only one, but she most certainly, somebody. If they actually listen to Stacey Abrams, they'll do a better chance than they would listening to anybody from the Democratic consulting class.
So I had a long conversation with a sister that I rock with, Ben, about this about the Democratic strategy and like what they're gonna do. We unfortunately have seen what they're gonna do, right? We've already seen the Senate candidates pivot back towards trying to convince conservative leaning voters to vote for them, right? Or that they're not no extremists as the Republicans are trying to paint them. The tragedy with that is you do that at the expense of the voters that turn Georgia blue. And I don't understand why Democrats much rather have conversations on Republican terms than on terms that excite your base. If people be like, oh, well, black people in Georgia ain't for defund the police. I'm like, yo,
you have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, because what you're really saying is you've not unpacked that conversation with people, and you're just using terms. All right. So I hear you, because every black person in Georgia, if you have a real conversation, think that they should be policed like white people. And that is defunding the police. Whether you say defund the police or not, if you say black people, hey, we want our communities to be policed like white people, that requires less police. That's defunding of the police, and we're not having the conversations in a real, authentic way, bro. And I feel like that's tragic.
Because I think what people fail to realize is really something simple. If you are talking about actually getting some shit done, we'll show up every time.
We'll show up every time, bro.
If you really put something out there for us to believe. How many times we got to show up to the poll? Once a week, we will be there. But it's this vote for us no matter what we don't do, right? It's vote for us no matter what we do. Just vote for us and wonder why you're not. And so the thing is, though, is that I think leaders in the Democratic Party and the ruling elite, they understand that, and they don't actually want an electorate that will stand up every single time you ask them. I think they have it exactly the way they want it to a certain degree.
Ben, let me tell you something, brother. I tell people all the time, Florida's a great example of what you just said. And if people might think that's cynical, but what you just said is absolute fact, right? Let me say it a better way. Florida should not be a Republican state ever. I feel like Democrats in Florida make a lot of money losing or being considered a purple state, right? And I think they know that. And that's the tragedy. And I'm just saying it what it is. You know what I'm saying? I think the fact that the Democrats had to answer to 80 million voters scares the hell out of some of those folk who don't want to do nothing.
Yes.
That have been, think about this. If your job has been basically no oversight for 30 or 40 years, now you got 80 million people screaming at you about everything you didn't do.
Right.
That's something new for you that you're not ready for, especially in your sunlight years when you were supposed to be just coasting out, and your legacy was going to be a statue or a couple high schools in your hometown. And now you got these young folks saying, "Yo, enough of just sitting still. Enough of just sitting still." Right? They like, wait a minute, go back to those mediocre turnout elections.
Right. Go back to those mediocre. Go back to the time when people didn't even know what a town hall was. Town hall. We're gonna do a town hall. How do we do that?
I mean, people, Ben, and people should know that this is not even like hyperbole. Like, we literally saw 30-year incumbent in New York in Jamal Bowman's race wouldn't do town halls. Dude literally didn't live in. He lived in Maryland, bro. He moved to Maryland. He bought a house in Maryland outside of D.C. How nasty is that? You're representing the 16th district, and it's a majority district where people of color, black and brown people, and this white man didn't even live in the district anymore. He just bought a house in Maryland and kept his address in New York and just kept
Wow.
winning 30 years. He literally told someone on TV in the midst of an election while people are protesting black lives being murdered by cops regularly this summer. He said, if I didn't have a challenger, I wouldn't want to speak at a rally about a black life.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
didn't have, that's what he told the organizer on camera.
Yeah. No, I covered that. And it just shows you how many people do this shit for just a job, man.
For a job.
Right. We talked about this for a while early on in the show. We talked about how this is a game for them. This is a career for them. This is life or death for black folks. Like, and this is why I say, if you actually talk about changing something, if you actually talking about changing something, there's not a group of black folks that you would stop. Only people who wouldn't come out and support you would be the conservatives who want to stop progress, right? Black conservatives who want. But other than that, you will never be able to stop black folks from coming out and showing up to the polls if you talking about doing something. That's
real.
the key.
That's real. And I think, bro, I think people forget that. That is the motivation of black people. Like black people move. Like if besides like the unrest that exists in this country every time like black people get serious about moving this country, those are the only ways you move black people. Like with you saying you're gonna do something and then doing it, right? So black people will ride with those who ride with them.
Yep.
Or you'll just have the like we said, these mediocre turnouts of black folk and be happy with that, like you've done something, when in actuality your marker of success in the black communities is Clyburn, and we know that Clyburn don't speak for the black communities. It's been a long time since Clyburn has been the mainstay in black communities.
I mean, just think about it.
And he's propped up by gatekeepers. Go ahead, Ben.
I don't mean to cut you off, but think about it this way. Think about the fact that at every stage in everybody's life, at some point, you are no longer going to be the norm in your community. You're no longer you eventually, if you actually are pushing your community forward, it is impossible for you to always be the best representation of that community. In other words, if Jim Clyburn had been doing his job, then it should be self-evident that there's somebody more qualified to be in his seat right now than him. There's no reason in the world, and it's not about ageism, it's about growth, it's about progress, it's about making sure that we're moving forward. But we have an entire generation of leaders who are comfortable with the idea of being the forever leader all the way to the time that they die, as if there's nobody in your entire kingdom that you prepared to be there while you're on your deathbed. You have to lead all the way to the point where you die. That's how leadership goes in this country.
And it also it's a testament of like the misleadership class, right? How Nancy Pelosi could be my mother's mother. So you're telling me there's in that many generations, and there's 2 generations of old enough to be leaders behind me, right? There are voters that are millennials that are, millennials are 40 years old, bro. And then there's a generation behind them that can vote. That means that's 5 or 6 generations since Nancy Pelosi's generation. And you're telling me that she had nobody prepared? There's nobody in that district that she represents in California that's prepared to run for that seat. That is a failure. That should be a failure in itself. You shouldn't be 80 years old and nobody's prepared to take your seat. You've not done your job.
And it's not because it's not about the lack of wisdom in the older generation. It's about the lack of foresight. It's about the fact that at a certain stage, you're more likely to reminisce than you are to dream forward.
Or Ben, is it the lack of foresight, or is it just your entire legacy was set on you getting a job and staying there? Like your job was to be elected and that's it.
Right. Because you're not really prepared. Think of it this way. Think about if somebody came to me 2 years ago and asked me to put them on, right? and say, Ben, can you do X, Y, and Z and put me on? I might have had the best intentions, but 2 years ago, I didn't have any real channels to put nobody on. Right. I had to be secure in my own project first for me to be able to say, okay, hey, yeah, no, I could do X, Y, and Z. And I think we have an entire generation of leaders who, with the exception of the ultra wealthy like Nancy Pelosi, you take somebody like your average black congressperson who's in debt, right? They are dependent on these $200,000 a year jobs, right? They need that money. And so to a certain extent, it's not only about trying to hold on to power, it's also about trying to hold on to a livelihood in the economic system that as soon as they retire, that's a wrap. Like, I mean, I think they get retirement benefits. I think they get the retirement benefits for their full salary. I'm trying to think how it breaks down for Senate and Congress. But either way it go, it is a financial commitment for a lot of them too.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ben. And then that too is something else, right? Like you literally went into this thinking, okay, I'm gonna do this and forever and be good. Like this was being elected to Congress was your retirement plan.
Right.
And that is tragic because being elected to Congress should be your change plan. Like this is where I'm going to change something for my community for the better. Or you're just there for a problem. You are a cog that's slowing down the system. So I think there are too many people that are not going there. I didn't find, to me it wasn't offensive or off-putting to me when AOC said I'm not sure if I'm going to do this for a long time or if I was going to retire. All of y'all should be thinking like that, right?
Right.
All of y'all should be thinking, okay, I got 2 terms to go in here, for Congress, this is only 2 years, a few terms to go in here and do something powerful and impactful, and then go home and live my life.
Yeah, man.
Because why else would you just go there? And I mean, like, first of all, what she was elected supposedly around this progressive idea, Green New Deal, Medicare for all, blah 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 blah. Go work on that and get it done and go home. And then let the next generation and their ideas of progressivism happen, and you just watch it from the sidelines. But I think part of it though is if you look at the age of our Congress member, I feel like that generation is upset with themselves. I said it, and I'm gonna tell you why. They think about this. They lived during a time where Martin Luther King was not a historical figure. He was a part of the news, right? The appetite of the news. Malcolm X was real. Fidel Castro was real. Nelson Mandela was real. So they lived during this time. And I feel like, and SNCC, I left off Fannie Lou Hamer and a lot of other folk who were doing real work. Joanne Robinson. These people weren't historical figures. These people were living with these people as well, right? And I feel like they stayed on the porch. They stayed on the porch. So their legacy will not be that of SNCC, even though they try to convince us that all of them were on that bus, even though it was only 34 seats. You know what I'm saying? So we are dealing with a generation that is a generation of super civil rights leaders, and they won't let go of they won't let go of the reins. And they also are part of the largest generation. So they have this entitlement that goes with numbers. But the problem with that is your colleagues are no longer the largest voting bloc. So they don't see the world the way you see the world. And to believe that most millennials, which is the largest voting bloc in this country, I mean, will be, right? But coupled with millennials and the generation behind them, these young folk don't feel like that their thought is represented by majority of people. And that's part of the disassociation with politics. And I'm telling you, they will rinse themselves clean of these folk within a couple of election cycles.
That's all it's going to take, right? Between them dying off, right? Somebody just put in the chat room, Chuck Grassley is 87 years old. I mean,
87
years old. That's absolutely absurd. Listen, let me tell you something. I think it is
87 years old.
Bro, 87.
Ben, let's do the math real quick. What year was that?
I wish. I'm sitting here thinking like, man, like just to live to 85, 80s. This dude is 87 and still.
Ben, the man was born in 1933. I bet you in my hometown, nobody had a car in 1933.
Hell. No car, no TV, no.
I know nobody had TV. 1933, bro.
Bro, and again, it's not about ageism. But it really is about, ask yourself this question: who do you want lead? If it is an issue, just take your family, your immediate family. You a great grandparent, or you're a grandparent, whatever, and you got your children who are in their 40s, between 40s and 50s. You 87, like Chuck Grassley. You got children who are in their 40s or their early 50s, and you got grandchildren. I'm asking you, put yourself in the position of Chuck Grassley. You're 87 years old. You've got children in their 50s. Who do you really want leading that family unit, that 3-generation family unit? Do you want it to be you at 87 years old? Do you obviously don't want it to be the grandchildren? So who should be leading the helm at that period? It should be that middle generation. And it's not out of right. It's not out of like some universal right, but maybe it is. Maybe it's just common sense that there has to be a generation that you hand this off to because you're not going to live forever. But we've gotten so accustomed to being led by people who really should be in their golden years that of course they don't have a vision for the future, because as far as they could see, 5 years is a distant future for them. Sorry.
Listen, brother, let's just say this. I think it is about age, bro. Let's be serious. I mean, we say that nature tells us it's about age. Right? And there's a certain point where we say kids, you're supposed to raise your kids. Grandparents shouldn't be raising kids, right? And there's a reason for that. We also say that. I mean, I just think nature gives us plenty of examples of why certain things are for certain folk. And we should think about that with our policies as well. I'm not even kidding. I don't want a majority of people. I feel more confident. I would feel more confident if majority of the people that were elected in this generation or representative of the age dynamics of this generation. I mean, of this country. I feel like if we had more people younger than me elected in elected office, I think that would be amazing to me. That would be amazing to me if the majority of the people, and they should feel like that. Why do you want your age group? What are you, 87? Majority of the people in Congress should not be baby boomers, bro.
Bro, like think about 87. When we're 87, think about when we're 87. I'm 40. So 47 years, God give me strength. First of all, that's a celebration because black men usually don't make it that far.
We don't.
Right? But we're going to change that. We're going to change that generation. 87 will be the year 2067. Do you think I am going to have the cognitive capacity to compete with the issues of that generation?
Right. Right.
Like just trying to understand the internet 7.0 by that time. Like trying to understand the virtual reality hyper world that we get. Like, how am I going to get out there and regulate that?
Exactly. I mean, because all of it's going to sound strange to me. And I feel like that's the problem with life. Like, we have these old 3-4 generation removed from reality. By reality, I mean, what is the current climate? What is pop culture? Not in the traditional sense, not pop culture like cut on your dance music, but what is popular right now. We have a generation that is so far removed that everything that this generation does, they have a problem with it. When in actuality, it's just a changed way of life that they're not accustomed to. And it's partly because they're 87-ish.
And so some generation actually has to be, some generation is going to have to be self-sacrificing enough to regulate themselves in order to regulate this problem going forward. In other words, these people, this last generation, 87-year-old in Congress, doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. Call me at ages, but it doesn't. Not when you're Somebody said in the chat room, at that age, you know more people who have died. More of your friends have died than are living.
Wow.
Right? And,
wow.
Come on, man. Like, and you know, so we need a generational shift. One of the fundamental changes is that we make some changes about how old and how long people can run. Like, it makes no sense for Joe Biden to have been the candidate this time around, or anybody who's like 77, 78, 90. These people are aging out. And not in terms of, I don't care what you say. The bottom line is that they are not going to be capable of making decisions for our children. My parents can only make decisions for my children in the event that I'm not there.
Ben, you ready for this? The man is 52 years older than the age you have to be to run for president. Did you hear what I just said? This country says you need to be at least 35 to run for president. He is 52 years older than that, bro.
Bro. Think about how much time. Think about it this way. Like, I wonder if anybody in the audience is like studies this field. But just, I'm thinking about like normal growth in your body, like the physical, actual growth. Can you imagine what happens to your body if you don't shed those old cells. Just the older skin cells, just not shedding off that baggage that you can't. Can you imagine the amount of damage it's done? But we're doing that in the body politic.
We are.
In the body politic in this country, we are allowing a generation who is well past their I'm sorry. We cannot look at Chuck Grassley's generation as qualified leadership in 2020. It it doesn't work.
And if people are asking what we're saying, let me say it a different way. Chuck Grassley was elected in 1980. That's the first year a millennial was born. That's the first year a millennial was born, right?
He's been in office since 1980. I was
turning 1 year old that year.
I was born that year. Wow.
So let's talk about something different. The progress of politics in those 20 and 40 years don't rate you sticking around anymore. I mean, like, you're not going to do anything that's traumatic. I mean, that's going to be super progressive to push our country forward. We didn't get reparations from that generation. They didn't address the problems of the 70s. They laughed at that generation, and I'm saying because of their policies, laughed at the warnings that came from Jimmy Carter about the environment, right?
Yeah.
He put solar panels on the White House in 79, and people laughed at him and called him this quirky old dude. When in actuality, the problems of the environment, if taken serious then, wouldn't be so, like, the needs wouldn't be so drastic right now. So that we should criticize. If you've been in office, let us criticize your entirety of what happened on your watch. And he's part of some sad things, if we're being honest. If we're being honest, all of those people that were elected then, that class up until now, we got a lot of stuff to criticize them about.
Right.
Not to mention, you were elected to Congress when Ronald Reagan was president.
Come on, man.
Ronald Reagan. There's a point. Continue. How many presidents have we had? How far?
My entire life.
Thank you. How far have we come since Ronald Reagan? Think about this. You ready for this, bro? Ronald Reagan was running ads about welfare queens and black people.
Right.
Winning.
Bro, there were still rotary phones.
There were still rotary phones.
You could still connect to people by dialing the last 5 digits, not the whole 8 digits. Like, this is matter of fact, it was so long ago. The year I was born, on my birth certificate, it refers to me as a Negro. That's how far back we're talking about. We're talking about people still in office.
Wow.
Who were elected the year I was born and called a Negro. That's how old this is.
I'm just trying to put it in perspective for people. Chuck Grassley got his first degree in 1956. Okay, his college degree,
bro. His degree cost 50 cents, bro. His degree was the price of a McDonald's burger, on a Sunday afternoon. Come on, man.
So I mean, so when people, it's not about ageism. It's about reality and what we need to do to fix this experiment called democracy, right?
I like Jacqueline's comment. She said, well, she doesn't agree in general, but she said Congress should be reflective of society. Some of the seats should have older representation, but not most of them. I agree with that 100%.
That's exactly what we said.
Let's do it. Let it be reflective of society. Like, if there's a quota to be had in this country, is that we have a full expectation that there should be representation across the board. Like, that means the LGBTQIA community needs to be properly represented. Blacks and minorities, brown people should be represented. Women. Oh my God, can we get that kind of America today?
Can I have that Congress?
Please, I want that.
I welcome that. I'm not saying that folks shouldn't have a representation because they are a part of the society. I just said an overwhelming majority of it shouldn't be that outdated. And by outdated, I mean you are so far removed from reality that you believe when people challenge you, they're being disrespectful, or when you say, or when you hear what current culture is, you're still calling 40-year-olds kids. If you look at a 40-year-old like they're a child, you are not representative of what's going on in this. I mean, like,
bro, but that stunts our growth too.
And that too is ageism, right? In the reverse. I mean,
exactly. It stunts our growth, right? So there's a thing that happens, right? I talked about it last week. There's a thing that happens with everybody. At some point, you realize, holy shit, I'm the adult, right? When it goes down, it all falls on me. If it goes down in my neighborhood, it falls on me. If it goes down in my family, it falls on me. If it goes down with my mother, it falls on. So there's a point, there's a transformative moment where you realize here's the thing in America. They have not handed that mantle off to the people who are responsible for this. You and me, we're the ones who are majority paying taxes, right? Our age group. We're the ones who are the workforce. We're the ones with the responsibility above us and below us, right? But the bulk of the decisions that are made in this country are being made by people who are two generations older than us, man. Like we're talking about Chuck Grassley could legitimately be our grandparents.
Right.
Literally.
Right. And I know Bernie folk are saying like keep the ones with fire and Bernie got fire. I even think, there's Bernie too there's a failure of Bernie like celebrating Bernie. Bernie, like I said, I don't think a progressive from Vermont right now would be against reparation in 2020. Bernie just got here. So I think part of that is because of the generation he belongs to. And the idea that, somewhere deep down, people believe that you weren't a slave being or I was not a slave. And we should just get over that, right? Like we don't owe you for that. This is the space where America is allowed to criticize all these other countries around the world that are doing harm to their citizens, but not criticize itself, not self-reflect on the harm of the trauma associated with not just slavery, but all of the things that came for black folk after slavery, and that are still coming for black folk and killing black folk. So I think that too is part of a generation that said you had an opportunity that was not associated with slavery directly, and for that we don't owe you.
I like Ursula's comment also. I got more radical as I got older. I did too. I am too. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt. But I think, what made me more radical? It's the same thing that keeps me from jumping off the deep end, right? Because I probably would be in jail if it wasn't for my family, right? So the fact that I got kids that I got to look out for, that most certainly made me far more radical than I've ever been. This is not to say throw all of our leadership in the hands of freshmen in college. No. And this is to say, let it be reflective of what it looks like in this country, right? There's going to always be more people in that middle generation. That's a good sign to say that should be the majority of our leadership. And that's just not what we have in this country.
Absolutely. And Robert, you're absolutely right. It is a misrepresentation of society if we only elect lawyers and titans of industry, which is why if you look at our leaders, I'm talking about Jamal Bowman, AOC, and Cori Bush. None of them are lawyers or titans. You know what I'm saying? They're not super lawyers from these large firms. They're not titans. We're talking about a principal, waitress, and these are folk doing what normal folk do, which is what our form of progressive are not these massive, like I said, lawyers from these large firms or industries. These are regular folk. I mean, AOC I don't know if you remember when she first got there, she couldn't even afford
apartment.
Right, exactly, in DC. So I agree with you. And I think it is a misrepresentation to only have business folk elected. That is not a representation of people.
Right. I think if we had actual representation, and this is where identity politics actually matters in a very representation matters. Because we're not guaranteed just because a person is black and goes to Congress that they're going to be part of the black radical tradition and by default, like the most progressive person. It's not a guarantee, right? But if we actually made an effort to make Congress look like America,
oh my,
just on GP, it may not all be radical black folks that go up there, brown folks or trans folks. Some of them might be neoliberal centrists. But if you let one or two of us get in there, they carry the right kind of politics and the traditional spirit, the radical traditional spirit, man, we change this country just by sheer virtue of the fact that we made Congress more reflective of this country.
I mean, everybody knows it. This is why diversity programs are touted as being an innovation, when in actuality, it's playground. If you ask a person of color, right? Like the idea that more people that think differently is a stronger unit. You need an entire law firm to tell you that diversity is important. That to me sounds ridiculous. Like, I mean, of course it is. So Ben, think about this. If our Congress was, if we had some of those brothers and sisters from Fight from 15 sprinkled throughout Congress, man, would nothing happen? No documents, no laws would be passed without the needs and the thoughts of working folk, because they wouldn't have it. Every time they did Fight for 15, they call up the workers from Burger King, McDonald's, all over, and be like, yo, this is what we about to do. We about to shut this down because these people clearly are not listening to us.
Right, right. The biggest identity that is left out, completely out of Congress, are workers. Right, mm-hmm. people who are hourly waged workers,
exactly,
essential workers, people who wouldn't even know. Like, can you imagine the challenges that AOC had inside of herself just by the sheer fact that she was going from being a bartender to now making decisions with the richest people in this country, right? Because there's a huge class dynamic there. Think about Cori Bush, like, and it's a right of right now. It's a statement of pride, right? But she's going to the thrift store when she gets to Washington, D.C. to make sure that she can, because that's the life. Like, legit, that's exactly where most of us come from. That identity is not represented in Congress.
Absolutely not. And I dare anybody to believe that or say that. I mean, so first of all, let me tell you something, Ben. There's stepping stones, I believe, to Congress and also understanding what our politics look like. And part of that is part of the reason that it's not been the way it should have been is the lack of money that we give congressional staffers, like not the Congress members themselves. If you ever been, and I'm certain you have been through the halls of any of those buildings, Longworth or any of them, you will know that it's damn near all white people that are working as the staffers. And part of that is people in D.C., people in the world might not know this. Part of that is they only pay those people $25,000, $30,000 a year. Yeah. It wasn't to leave and AOC was like, well, we're going to pay these people real money. Like, we're going to give them a salary that they can live off of, that they were able to diversify. Like that, if you think about all the years coming up, we don't have, at the age of 24, 25 years old, for the most part, black people don't have the luxury of living in D.C., which is one of the most expensive cities in this country, of $25,000, because that's your family network, that is network and also worth that is supporting you. And that's why these white people have been in these positions to just say, okay, we're going to go from being a liaison to the office to a political director for this congressperson, to moving up to a lobbyist, to moving up to chief of staff, to then becoming prepared to run for office yourself. Those ladders have not been provided for us, and people don't talk about that. So it's these people who come from working class society that said, well, that makes no sense. And they started paying their staffers a livable wage, and I think it freaked some people out that AOC and those folk were talking about, let's just give these people salaries, like real salaries, and not $25,000 and $30,000, and it allows us to diversify our office in a way that is not the same political class washing through Washington D.C.
That's the fact. That's a fact. We have a system that has been cornered off by the inability of workers to participate because we got to go out and work. Right. I actually tried to get a job on Capitol Hill a couple of times, and they were all jobs that were going to, whether you work for a senator or a congressperson, they all paid crap. They all pay, like, I think the best job that I could have got starting off would have been like $45,000, which you
weren't getting that job
in Georgia. Yeah, I know. And I didn't get it. Right. Somebody else got it. But like in rural Georgia, $45,000, you could live on. Like that's a bet. Washington, D.C., you rooming with 5 other people. Right. And they have made sure that there's a barrier to entry for anybody to participate in the halls of our body politic. But that's their way of perpetuating and keeping us out, because this country right now, we are led by the ruling elite at the expense of hundreds of millions of people who will never be in that ruling elite, versus having representation that would balance this out, that says, okay, fine, we have some billionaires. Maybe we're not going to tax y'all into oblivion. If you leave it up to other people, if you leave it up to me, we're going to tax you to oblivion. Right. But we don't have that type of structure because they've been able to keep us out. They've been able to keep people who would have no problem raising taxes on the rich, because we ain't never been rich. They've been able to keep us out.
Right. And also, I think people, a lot of it is like this, the lack of, we're still talking about diversity here. Basically, if you boil it down, that, and this is economic, lack of economic diversity, where the people who run for office or people that are elected, or the people that are working in there they all come from a certain class for the most part, and there are a few people sprinkled throughout, or they go there and get rich so quick that it's mind blowing, right? And I think that too is reflective of America's idea of a greatness is so closely linked to money. And we forget that success in this country comes at the expense of poor people, working people,
All time, all
all
day.
the time. I mean, Amazon, think about Amazon. This guy's talking about his company's going to go bankrupt and all the money he has is absolutely ridiculous. Or the fact that some of his workers, any of his workers, getting welfare should be disgusting. And the fact that he is in a spot where some of his employees qualify for social services is ridiculous. You should not be able to be a trillionaire or something close to 100 billionaire, and anybody that works for you qualifies for social assistance. Period.
Right.
It should be illegal. Period.
It should be illegal in a rational, sensible world. Well, we're going to take a real quick commercial break and introduce ourselves and our guest, our regular occurring guest. You can find me on Twitter. I need a little more coffee, apparently. Find me on Twitter at Benjamin P. Dixon. Mundell, tell the people where to find you.
I am Mundell on Instagram. That's I am Mundell. On Twitter, I am Mundell Robinson. Facebook, Mundell Robinson. And Black Male Voter Project everywhere.
I took down the wrong person. I wanted to take me down. All right. And Rebecca Azor, tell the people how they can get up with you, bring you onto the screen. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, y'all. Tired. How they
tired?
tired. You guys can find me on Facebook at Rebecca Azor, the picture of me in the grass. And then you can find me on Instagram, the Songstress, TheeSongstress. And you can find me on Twitter, Rebecca Azor. That's my first name, last name on Twitter.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Somebody said, Marcus Mundell, that's the definition of a Walmart employee. Somebody, the bosses, the CEOs getting ready to become trillionaires while their staff is on benefits.
It's absolutely true.
On assistance.
Ben, and you know they're telling the truth, because think about what happened when the people, those that were fighting for 15 protested in Texas and a couple other states in the South. What Walmart do? They're like, okay, we're gonna pay people $10 an hour, and then everybody was championing Walmart for paying employees $10 an hour, and not realizing the fact that what they did was they did that as a blowback because of the crushing pressure they were getting from public, but
right.
they also closed down that store that were protesting, like where the people were protesting, right? That store was closed down, so they didn't pay those people. The other people benefited great, but you still took thousands of jobs from folk because they were protesting the fact that you were making them work right at the cutoff before they qualify for full-time benefits, and you were paying them less than $10 an hour, which is absolutely disgusting when some of the owners own boats the size of towns.
they got freight liners, they got cruise
for private
ships.
use. You know what I'm saying? Not the ship stock. This is these literally I think America is absolutely ridiculous when the way that America associate greatness. I've had people tell me like, oh, what do you know about politics that LeBron don't know?
Plenty. Oh my God, what do you mean?
but LeBron started the basketball. I mean, he started the political thing. So like, because he has a blue check for something completely different in politics in this country, and he has all this money, then by default he absolutely knows.
You actually had somebody ask you that, man?
For real.
Yeah, by that. That's absolutely.
But to me, it's beautiful because it proves the fact that America, it ain't just Donald Trump fans who don't like truth. It's America in general. It's an American tradition to deny that which is true for that which is rich.
Let's bring Rebecca into the conversation. Rebecca,
first of all, I don't know really what y'all talking about, but the last thing he said is true. America really doesn't like truth, and that's really, really sad. So are you guys going to clue me in on what the conversation was about? Because I wasn't watching y'all this morning.
We're talking about the discrepancy between who's elected, the age discrepancy, really.
Yeah.
Now, we're just talking about diversity in general, like those who are in Congress, how they are 87, 80 years old, when in actuality, millennials should be the majority of folk, or the generation behind them that are in Congress.
Also about the general conversation about how our parents' generations, they don't ever really want to trust us to lead. right? No matter how old we get, they don't want to trust us to lead. But we're talking about our parents' generation. We're talking about this Chuck Grassley, 87 years old. Like, he legit could be my grandfather, let alone my father, right? So that said, it's the older generations not being willing to let go of power so that the generation who is responsible for leading, because we got to pay all the bills. We got to take care of our children. We got to send money to take care of our parents. But we're not given the authority to lead in this country.
Yeah, so I can definitely agree with that. I feel like it's ridiculous to see how these people don't want to give up their seats, and how we are the ones that are saving this country right now. We are the ones that are pushing it forward. We even give credit to the Generation Z who's doing their job, right? Who's holding it down for when we, give them that space, right? This is what the millennials are doing. We're doing a great job of giving the Generation Z their space to do what they need to do. But for some reason, this generation before us, people that hold the house, the 80-year-olds, the older people, they just really still view people underneath them as just never good enough for the position, never good enough for what's happening. But in the truth, they don't even like the change of it. They're not even changing up at all. It's like, for example, I was working at a news station. There was this old ass man. I was writing his script for him. And I'm like, it's time for someone else to take this position. This man doesn't even know how to do none of the work. We were doing the work for him, but all he was just going on and doing was reading. He did none of the work, none of it. It was time for him to move on and let somebody take that seat. But because it was seniority, they let him take it, even though he was doing no work. You know, and some of these older people don't want to change, don't want to step into the new ways of how the world is going, the new ways of looking at these policies and things like that. They don't want to do that. So as long as they keep their seat, a lot of things ain't gonna change, and that's also the downside of it.
I want to say something real quick. It seems like it's not related to what Rebecca's talking about, but it's necessary. There's a trolling episode taking place in our Facebook chat right now, and I want to just address it for the simple fact that Jaden, you're actually doing a wonderful job of proving exactly what's wrong with America and how we see and the problems that exist in this country as it pertains with facts. We were talking about reparations earlier, Ben. We didn't even really get into the conversation. We just mentioned the fact that certain folk were against it, and he's talking about my family was Irish and we were slaves, and you don't see me complaining or moaning about where we are. I love how you have to tell us you were Irish. Not one time did I tell you I was black. It's obvious. And that right there is enough of explanation of what's wrong with America. And I'm just going to leave that at that. And if you can't swallow that pill, Jading, then you too, sir, are part of the problem. So Rebecca, Ben, were you going to respond to Rebecca?
No. Let you go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that's absolutely right. I think the idea, but I think part of it though is we were raised by people that believed in respectability politics, and some of that is still around us. It's in us, and I think that us pushing, not for real, but proverbially pushing people older than us out the way is seen as rude, when in actuality it's the way of the world. Lions don't ask other lions to move; they just challenge them. They just challenge them, and I think it's time that we do the same. And until we do, I think we're gonna always be having these conversations, when in actuality we don't need to. We just need to replace them. We need to take down old lions, and not, we're not writing you off saying you're useless. We're just saying that your time in this office, my friend, is gone.
It's up. Right.
It's
Think
gone.
about this, and I'll throw it to you, Rebecca. Think about the fact that we have an entire industry, the most powerful industries on the face of the planet in the history of the planet, generating more money than any other period in the history of this world. The most powerful, the most rich, with the most data are people in our age group, Silicon Valley. They know they have all the power, they have all the money, they have all of our data. And they also have the ability to just kind of ignore grandpa asking them questions in front of the Senate, because they know grandpa absolutely has no idea. And he understands the politics of grandpa's office. Grandpa's only going to listen to people in his office so much. He doesn't really care. Right. So we have entrusted all of the money and the power and technology into the hands of our generation and pitted them against our grandparents. And are we surprised that the social media industry has way more power than politicians now? Are we surprised that it's a mismatch? It's a mismatch. We're trusting that generation to give us all of the technology that we would ever need, but we're not trusting them to give us the leadership that we need.
And you're talking about us, right? We're that generation that they're not.
Yeah, all day.
It's kind of, it just goes into all, it's like, why couldn't we mix in the respectability and kicking their behinds out at the same time? Listen, this is our respect for you. Sit your behinds down and let us let us do what we need to do. Aren't you guys tired? You're just taking the seat because of a title at this point. It's just like that. And it's like, let us do the work. A lot of times, this is why we're held back in communities, like where people do not just want to change up the seats or anything like that. This is why. We see it happen in churches. We see it happen in other areas of leadership, like where these people do not want to remove themselves and don't want to allow somebody else to come in and bring a change. They're not even open to the change, right? But somebody else you can bring in and just go ahead and do the change while you guys sit down, relax, retire, or whatever the case. If you can, and a lot of these people can retire. They're just there at this point for the title, like just holding the seat for the title, and that's it. Don't want to do no work. It's a shame. It really is a shame that this is what's happening. And like you said, Mondale, like at this point, I wish we could, include the respectability, but at this point it's like, listen, Granny, get the fuck out of here. Like,
we got to go.
We don't have to
go. I think, and we have to be honest about like what slow progress looks like in this country. I mean, we've been waiting far too long for something that's owed to us. And America, if we're talking about late payments make you have bad credit, then America should have the worst credit in the world for her unpayment to blackness for all of the things that we are owed, right? Including slavery, Reconstruction, and then people. Let me just give you an example. We talk about white men always talk about bootstraps and how they got where they are. No one in this country gets anywhere without roads, right? Let's talk about the roads of the South, which actually allows the transport of so much product because of the ports in the South and all of that, right? If you don't know the history of roads being built in this country, then you should definitely take some time and find out how the roads were built and what really was the mechanism of the chain gangs. White people used to call the chain gang progressive, like the progressive idea of imprisoning folk, where you would be locked up for anything or the thought of anything and sentenced to the chain gang for years at a time. Some people for the rest of their lives. And it was just about America needing roads, and they wanted them free. So this was roads was the plantation throughout the South after the plantations ended. And folk need to know that, like we sensationalize this word called prison industrial complex as if it was a new sensation because the book came out about the new Jim Crow, and people heard and read the word new, thinking that it was associated with something that just came out like New Jordans, but in actuality, the new Jim Crow started right after slavery ended. I mean, if you really want to be honest about the creation of prisons, because I said on the show the other day, when slavery ended, we had 267 prisoners in North Carolina. But soon after that skyrocketed, and we started building prisons throughout the South, and that was an extension of slavery, and it's how we got roads throughout the South, and people don't talk about that. So what I'm saying is, America, old folk, being respectable does nothing to get us what we're owed. Does nothing to get us to equity, and if you believe in your Jesus and how people should be treated, then your respectability is killing us. You being unwilling to flip the change tables, it's killing us. You being unwilling to curse the fig tree is killing us. You being unwilling to curse the spells into the fleet of pigs, boy. I call them fleets of pigs, then you are killing us because you want to be respectable and forget that Jesus was always violent about injustices, never physically violent, but always violent about injustices. And no one wants to be violent about I'm not talking about physical, but no one wants to be violent about black equity in this damn country, and that's the problem.
Preach. Rebecca, what you watching? What you been watching over the weekend? What's popping in your world?
Well, that's really good, Mondale. I really like that. I appreciate That's good. I'm gonna use that in my conversation with people that be trying it. But what's really been happening in my world this weekend? You know what I really have been bothered by is the Kyle Rittenhouse or whoever the murderer.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday was also the anniversary, I believe, of Tamir Rice.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I just thought about like this little boy holding, a toy gun, a BB gun, and losing his life, and this other young terrorist, and mind you, Tamir Rice was not a terrorist; he was just a baby boy playing outside.
Right.
Meanwhile, this terrorist went out there with a gun, shot people, murdered people, and was bailed out on $2 million, and is out in these streets and has quoted and said that he doesn't regret anything. Why this world is so fucked up. This world is so messed up. And like I just really yesterday was really pressed about that. I was just watching that, and the fact that this murderer, this terrorist is so protected, and we've seen this time and time again, but just reminded that he's so protected. He's literally a murderer, and baby boys and black men and black women are losing their life every day who are innocent for nothing. And I'm just so mad about it. Again, this is the same story from years ago, and I'm still fucking mad about it. Like, this is like the Dylan Roof. Like, this is all trash. And I hate that we live in this nation that doesn't give a fuck, that does not see the hypocrisy, that does not see the severity of this. I don't have a kid yet. And when I do have a kid, I'm going to be so overprotective. Like, I'm getting more overprotective over my nephews and over my father, over my brothers. It's like, I can't even... It just put me back in a place of just like, I'm so over it. I hate to see it. I hate it so much. And this white boy is literally eating good right now, just chilling while people are mourning. The people that he's killed, their families are mourning.
Right.
Yeah, the idea that he has bail, and I mean, listen, sis, that's real. I mean, Tamir Rice was 12, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? In the playground, on the playground, and the officer's car hadn't even stopped. This guy, I'm just talking about, like, this kid was murdered for being black. That's it. On the playground, and this guy is white, and he got movie stars, Silver Spoon directors, people who on TV,
elected officials,
Mr. Pillow, right? Like that, $2 million. It's like that is the epitome of whiteness. Like that idea that. They're okay with that. They call him a patriot. And then all of these folks supporting him lets you know what American patriotism is about. Like, that is crazy to me. The fact that you think a vigilante, which all cops tell you are illegal. Like, I mean, like the idea that you're being a vigilante is patriotism is absolutely disgusting. And as a Marine Corps vet, it's a slap in my face. It's a slap in my face because we know what your definition of patriotism is. It's the same thing that says that that cross on that red flag is more about heritage and not hatred, when in actuality it's only about hatred. It's only about black folks. So I sis, I'm with you on that. And it's disgusting. You literally can remove the color pictures and make this 1940 or 1950, man, or 1930 or whenever.
Yeah. Go ahead. Y'all got it. I'm just listening.
I mean, I think that pregnant pause was the go ahead, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that I said the other night? It was dope. I said, it's like sometimes silence is, because I was gone. But it was good. I said sometimes silence isn't a bad thing. Sometimes silence is giving the person with the right answer time to speak up. And I'm like, you know what? That was actually a brilliant thing that I said the other day. So, Rebecca, I think that means you have the right answer. So why don't we give you a second to let you speak up?
I already spoke my piece. I'm just over it. No, seriously, like, I don't know how to feel, you guys. It's just like every time I see this, I was going about my day, didn't go on social media. Then I get on and I see that this man, was bailed out. And then by the people who bailed him out, that's even more. It's like, these are people, elected officials, like you said. These are people who own these big $1 million companies. These are people who are actors. These people don't give no fucks about black people. They just don't care. This is clear. I remember, so the other night when I was on your what was that, Ask and Tell, whatever he
Mm-hmm.
was doing on
Yeah,
Friday.
the
And
Ask Me Anything, basically.
yeah, this is why I was telling the people, and kind of encouraging them and helping them understand. Y'all ask questions, and I know that you don't understand. Like, I know that you don't get it. But sometimes it's like the questions that are asked are like, why don't you guys just organize and do a little bit more, or why is it that when you guys do organize, nothing is changing? Why? Because of this. Look how much we can't stop organizing, we can't stop fighting, but we can't change. Like, literally, what other message can we put out there but stop fucking killing us? Like, what do you guys want us to do? How do you guys want us to package that? How? When this is happening, you guys are, and I hate to say this, I'm not coming for you. I'm just helping you understand you're white. So you can't ever see it through my eyes. You can't ever see it through Ben's eyes. You can't ever see it through Mondale's eyes. You can't. You can't. So when you ask, it almost is offending. Like, it's like when you ask and say, well, what else can you guys do? Why isn't anything changing? You know what? No, guys, listen, this is all we can do is continue to organize, continue to fight, continue to protest. But they still killing us. They're still killing us. We still wake up to this hypocrisy. We still wake up to the white man being saved after murdering us.
$2 million
being
bill.
saved and protected. This is ridiculous. I'm so frustrated. Like, yesterday, I just felt myself having a slight anxiety attack because I'm like, I cannot believe this is happening. Mind you, I've seen this happen before, many a time, right?
Right.
But it's just like, damn. They really saving, and look at the people who's saving this man. While we got other people who are in jail for shit like fucking petty theft and fucking like marijuana sales. Like, they're in there for like 50 years, right? People ain't like, this is bullshit. This is fucked up. Our system is fucked up. Nobody is saving them niggas. And people who try to save them, doing the work out there, doing what they can do. I'm talking about people before Kim Kardashian that's been out there fighting for people in jail for years and years. Ain't got the money, but been trying to raise money for people who are innocent and in jail. And this nigga came out and like covered and protected. That shit is fucked up.
And yeah, I mean, listen, and the way that America give it to us too is like just like spit in your face, right? The dude literally grew up on a show called Silver Spoons about white privilege, and now he's out here, living it out. So this show was not about something that was false. I can't believe that. I hate myself as a child for watching that damn show because now I know what silver spoons are. And as a kid, I used to watch that show thinking it was something amazing or something to aspire to, when in actuality, it too, America's, if we're being honest about America's capitalism, and I'm not a fan of capitalism, I also am I'm a realist. So if we think about capitalism the way it's formed and practiced in America, then we have to acknowledge that it was already perverted from the way they created it. It ain't even real capitalism, right? Capitalism, one of the major pillars supposedly of capitalism is that labor gets to determine what it's worth. Black people have never been able to determine what their labor is worth in this country. So that without that major pillar, then America was already practicing a racist form of capitalism, a system that is already about about exploitation, coupled with the race, aspect of capitalism in this country. And you see that, as a child, we were on TV, we were taught to celebrate that. Or even we thought that, even Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which I just watched the 30th anniversary, was about capitalism, right? Like the best life for Will was to move in with his rich family, not to keep him with his mother. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I think to myself, like that to me was a celebration of capitalism subliminally. And I think we are dying because we've never had access to social mobility in this country as an entirety. There's been a few of us that have been allowed to walk up that ropes, but that's always been the case. Even during slavery, there were a few wealthy black folk. So the idea that the black folks still are where we've always been in this country speaks to the damage that is associated with American capitalism and also our idea. Because, I mean, if we are being honest, our idea of how right whiteness is, because that's what American capitalism is, a celebration of whiteness.
Celebration of whiteness. Go ahead, Rebecca. I thought you were about to jump in there. I don't have any real thoughts about Kyle Rittenhouse that kind of falls outside of what you both said. I definitely understand the rage right? It's a feeling of desperation, a feeling that it's like seeing. This is literally what it's like. It's like seeing someone who killed your brother be the hero of half of this country, which makes you pause and think, wait, half of this country actually fucking hates me. And half of this country looks at evil and thinks that it's good. And that other half, that country, not only thinks that evil is good, they expect me to swallow what I know is wrong and tell them that it tastes good.
Yep.
That's the frustration that I get with Kyle Rittenhouse and what they show us on a regular basis. But because the depth of that rage goes extremely deep for me, I just, just laugh and just keep moving.
I mean, I tried, but yesterday was kind of like a trigger, I guess. And I'm tired, but I say I'm tired, but it's going to happen. I hate to say it, it's going to happen again. Like, this is happening from the beginning of time. Every history in my family I could ask, and we, like I said, are Haitians, right? We ain't no respectability politics for us. Like, ain't none of that. So, but still, they've seen and heard and have stories, and then I come here, and then now I'm born into American, right? So I'm looking at it from that point of view too, and I'm like, damn. Just all history is trash. Like, and we've never gotten like, when is it coming? Like, I'm tired. I'm gonna be tired about it tomorrow too, and I'm still gonna have to fight. Are my kids gonna have to do this?
Yeah.
Are my kids gonna have to do this? Are my kids gonna have to? And I'm tired also of, when things like this happen, the other side, white folks will come out with their quotes of hope from Black, and I'm just like, that doesn't help either. And I hate to say it, and I'm not like this is why I'm frustrated, because it's like, I need you guys to understand. Look how powerful your folks are, the actors who are white, the people who are in these high positions who are white, the business owners who are white. Look how powerful they are, and look at who they're protecting. Murderers, terrorists, rapists, right? But they're innocent Black people that, instead of you guys quoting the, Martin Luther King quote and all these quotes, these same folks, like, if you have the power, should be protecting us if you have it that way. I'm not begging for your protection, but this is what I'm saying. Instead of doing that, there's another thing that y'all could be doing.
They put out a song. They put out a song singing, "Imagine all the people." I'm like, nah, I don't need you to sing. I need you to get your cousins in them, right? Get your cousins in them and come together and sit down at a table of reason and good faith and put it all on the table as to why it's a bad thing that they keep killing us.
If peace means a willingness to be exploited economically, dominated politically, humiliated and segregated, I don't want peace. If y'all want to quote Martin Luther King, quote that one.
Yeah.
Or stop fucking quoting them. Stop quoting them.
Period. Like, seriously, that's all we. And I hate to say it. I know it makes. Back then, when I was a kid and when I was in school, I ain't know no better. Yeah, we sang that for one day. Around Thanksgiving or whatever, and we're quoting these things. It felt good in that moment, right? But now that I'm older, that does nothing for me. That's just stop, right? You picking and choosing these little parts. It's like when they pick and choose little parts of the Bible and don't read the whole chapter and just be focused on that small part. That's how I feel like they be doing. They just pick and choose these little parts, and they'll, for Christmas, I'm going to be nice to a Black person. For Christmas, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I post on Instagram of me, taking care of Black people in this part of Atlanta, giving them a turkey. But the next day after that, I'm fucking with the person that saved or that protected Kyle Rittenhouse or whatever, Rittenhouse. Who gives a? This is what I'm talking about right here. I need you guys to put pressure on y'all people, right? And if you have the power to save, like these people have been saving their white folks, to go ahead and do that shit. Do that shit. I don't want to hear the quotes. I don't want to see the pictures. Like, I don't. It's just ridiculous. I'm looking at it every day and I'm like, I hear the conversations. I hear all of that. But we are suffering and we're trying to save our own, but they are blocking us. Even if we have the means, they will try and block us in every way possible. But you guys who can literally just walk in somewhere, who can literally speak and say bullshit, will be heard, will be seen. Like, use your fucking power for us. If not, shut the fuck up and get out my way. So we got way more work to do and it's going to take us a little bit longer.
Big facts.
Just a little pressed this morning. I'm sorry.
Well, we messed around and found out what you were really feeling. That's all. we messed around. We messed around and found out what actually had been bothering your soul.
Here's what I love. I love when you point out the fact that someone is racist. America is racist. America is problematic for Black people. Or America is killing Black folk, or responsible for the lot that we find ourselves in. White people call us lazy or tell us to forget it. These are the same people who say that, they wear the Never Forget 9/11 t-shirts.
Yeah.
They wear the, they go to the celebration, the reenactment of the Civil War, right? The battles of Gettysburg is a fucking tourist attraction. Like, really? Like, there's no battles. Nobody's taking vacation to see Nazi battles recreated in Germany. You know what I'm saying? So I love how when you call out white supremacy, and I know some folk who are watching don't want us to talk about white supremacy, but I love when you call them out, how they always go to the point that Black people are lazy, or you should get a job. And I think to myself, I laugh so hard at that idea that Black people are lazy. Who makes a lazy slave? Like, how does that work? A lazy slave is a dead slave, and everybody knows that. I also believe that this is the invisible cloak that they are allowed to put on when you believe that your uncles and aunts that passed laws, and your granddad too, that said that if a Black person applied for a job that a white person was applying for, it was illegal. Like this is American history. Like, y'all forget that, and you forget that it still is a part of how we hire people. We know that white men with felony convictions are more likely to be hired than Black men with college degrees. Right now in 2020, that is a reality. We also know that Black men go ahead.
I would say, don't forget the black sounding name study, right?
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
if you send in a resume and your sound, if 50% more likely get thrown out just
if
because of the sound of your name.
Yeah.
Right. Jerome. Like, don't call yourself Tyrone and expect to get a job in this country.
It is 2020, y'all. It is 2020, and I think California just listen to me. The racism is so thick in this country. California just had to pass a law that said that women wearing braids and can't be discriminated against. Black women and their natural hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. And I'm thinking to myself, that's California. So where the rest of y'all racist cousins act and how they act.
Because the thing is, somebody you're right. People mention to us, all y'all talk about is white supremacy. But can I tell y'all a secret? The cancer that we are suffering in this humanity is white supremacy. Like, the overarching problem that is slowing down human progress is white supremacy. You throw in some capitalism in it, but white supremacy is just the front facing image of capitalism. But underneath it is white supremacy. And if you want to understand why we can't get any progress on the Green New Deal, you can understand it through the lens of understanding white supremacy. Because it is the cancer in this country, and it is the cancer on this planet. So we talk about it not because it's an easy thing to talk about because we're Black and we're fighting against white supremacy. No, we're talking about it because literally the folks who understood and found a way to survive white supremacy might actually be the folks that you need to listen to on how to survive all the other problems that we got going on. Just a thought.
It's like.
Go ahead, sis.
Why is it that they're so hurt by it? They're so offended by it. Like you said, Mondale, these are the same people who are telling us never to forget 9/11. These are people who are rocking these T-shirts and every 9/11 post up what happened in, in this nation and say, we have to make sure we remember these people who died, but yet are telling us to forget what happened to our ancestors and to forget all of that history that happened here in this nation and stop talking about it because it was so long ago. But the truth is we're in different times. It looks different, but we're still living the same exact way. We're still secondary, not even secondary. We're not even considered human to people to this day. To this day.
To this day.
And I'm so tired of it. So we're going to and I feel like if y'all want to, because this ain't my show, I can't say we're going to, but if y'all want to continue to talk about as much of this white supremacy, because we are teaching them something, right? We are teaching these people who are the audience, and a lot of them come here because they do want to understand. So if we're going to keep on fluffing it for them, like back in the days on regular media, that's not helping. That's not helping, right? Because then we're teaching them to do the stuff like, oh my gosh, I'm going to treat a Black person nice because it's the holidays. That's what we teach them, right? No, they need to know how we feel, what this is about, and we holding them accountable too. Ain't no way you telling me in 2020 I need to still be soft about when I talk about my feelings about how being Black in America feels for me. Period.
Right.
No,
but check this out.
No way.
Check this out. If you want to understand how much they don't care about us, this is the extent to which they don't care about us. They expect us to care about 9/11 every year, right? Mm-hmm. We're damn near close to having a 9/11 a day from COVID-19. Before this is over, we're going to be having a 9/11 a day. 3,000 people a day from COVID-19, and they don't even want to put on a goddamn mask, right? So if you want to understand how they really feel about us, we can talk about it in terms of white supremacy, but you can also just talk about it in terms of COVID-19. Mm-hmm. They don't even care enough to put a mask on their face. So they don't give a damn about us in any other context. They will just as soon see us gunned down in the streets and then celebrate the person who did it, like they're doing Kyle Rittenhouse.
Look at the election. That's another way we can show you that they don't give a fuck about us. Seriously, who's seen an election like this at all, ever? Mm-hmm. White supremacy is winning right here. Who has ever seen any election happen like this? To the point where in Georgia, they're willing to recount again for the third time. The third time. Come on. Help us understand. And it's all because this white man does not want to concede.
He can't take the L. He has
the power to literally run us in circles for no reason and do this BS. He has that power. Waste our time.
And damn near get away with it, right? He almost can't if he had any argument whatsoever. If it wasn't a clear blowout, right? I mean, there's states that Joe Biden won Georgia. So it's clearly a blowout. If it was anything other than a blowout, they have shown us their willingness and their capacity to overturn the results of an election, right?
I mean,
and so he's so committed. He's so committed to not losing that he would destroy this country. But at the same time, they've shown us this is the model of how they would destroy the country. Go ahead.
I mean, Trump's not even done. He's lost all of the grounding, and because Joe Biden won Georgia by less than 0.5%, then he has a legal right to request another recount, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. He's probably going to get another 100 votes, or Joe Biden's going to get another 100 votes, and that's going to be the change, which still means you will lose Georgia. Mm-hmm. But here's what he's doing that people aren't talking about. He's literally now pressuring state elected officials to ignore 80 million votes, right, and just say take the election. So this is the challenge to white supremacy that we will see, because like I say all the time, white supremacy in this country is 400-0. So we're going to see if these state electeds are willing to let Donald Trump pressure them into this fateful electorate thing. So we'll see. I am. Here's what's wonderful. When all of this is over, he'll be the albatross around Republicans' neck for a long time. And especially in the 2024 election, which means we have an opportunity to get a progressive elected to president, because I don't think Joe Biden's going to run again. I don't know. I think we really, really, really have the opportunity to get a progressive elected in 2024 because Donald Trump's going to run again. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna.
Man, Donald Trump. See, this is the whole thing. Dude, gonna be damn near 89.
That's
I mean, he ain't gonna be 89, but he gonna be old as dirt.
He's gonna run, or he's gonna say my child should be.
The pettiness. It's like he's going to literally do something like that. It's so sad how they have found a way to